Formathion. I hope you're all doing very well today. So I'm going to help you today with many different things with your English and in your English. I'm going to be looking at idioms, phrasal verbs, more or less phrasal verbs. Perhaps as well we will be looking indeed at suggestions that you can make in a business meeting. We'll also be looking at pronunciation and vocabulary through LinkedIn News. So what we're doing here really is trying to help you with your different aspects of business English, and also I'll be writing on the screen in order to help you remember one of the easiest things to forget, which is the alphabet. So often I'll be spelling out the letters, and let's get into it. First and foremost, thank you to the guys who have just connected with me recently. Great to have you on board with me. I'm just offering help with your business English in association with LK Formación, tailor-made solutions for your business. And let's jump into it. I'm going to go across first, I think, and what we'll look at is the vocabulary that we can see. And I'm going to just make myself a little bit smaller. There I am, getting smaller there. And I'm going to look at some news from LinkedIn. I always forget to pause, so it should be okay. And I'm going to be focusing on this. Okay, climate tech. Let's look at some pronunciation and vocabulary. So, new promising way to capture CO2 and store it in the sea. CO2 being carbon dioxide. Even though we know it's carbon dioxide, I will still say CO2. It tends to be the way in English we pronounce the letters. Scientists have found a way to suck CO2 from the air and store it safely in seawater. While current technology to capture carbon dioxide costs a lot less energy, the new technique is said to be 3 times more efficient. CO2 is usually stored underground, but by adding chemicals, it could be stored in the sea, researchers say. Okay, let's have a look at some vocabulary. Excuse me. Climate tech. Tech being the word that's most commonly used for technology. I do hear my students say tech sometimes, depending where you live in the world. The pronunciation is like a K. It is tech. Capture, see what scientists have found a way to suck. Suck is when we have a straw in a drink and we are sucking the air from. So that's interesting. I wonder if it is a good idea to be putting more carbon dioxide into the sea. Perhaps it's safe. I'd have to get the fish's opinion on that. Really, there not too much that I can. 1 second. I'm going to clear my throat. We call this clearing your throat. I haven't been, the way we say when you don't feel great or you haven't been well lately is, I haven't been 100% lately. I have kind of a sore throat. But anyway, we must push on. And while current means present, right now, technology to capture carbon dioxide costs a lot of energy. The new technique is said to be 3 times more efficient. Not much there. I think we can carry on. And what I would like to say as well, if you are in a meeting, if you're doing a presentation, in this, when we get to this point of we want to go to the next slide or the next topic or the next point, we'll say, let's move on. It's a great technique or phrase to say, let's move on. So that's exactly what I'm going to do if I can find the mouse. And we'll go to there and I'll just pause. Right, this in the wake of what has been happening in various countries is gender parity. Parity meaning equality. A law recently passed or up for debate here in Spain is to have a certain amount of women on the board of directors. So let's see what it says here. Greater gender equality could help people live longer. This is a study. Both women and men are likely to live longer when a country makes progress on gender equality according to research. The global study found that for every 10% increase in the measure of a country's gender equality, average life expectancy rose by 4.3 months for women and 3.5 months for men. Okay, so equality is making people live longer. Well, that's good news. I'm going to point out some things here. Starting from the top, parity, we could say equality would be a synonym. Greater gender equality to help people live longer. Both women and men are likely to live longer when a country makes progress on gender equality, according to research. According to me, according to somebody, it's when somebody tells you something, according to research. The global study found that every 10%, remember the percent sign comes after the number, increase in the measure of a country's gender equality. This apostrophe S here in countries, I can't highlight it. Highlight is I can't make it because it's on LinkedIn here. But it's very important when reading or pronouncing. This S at the end is very important. In this case, the apostrophe S is a possessive. Country's gender. My country's climate is sunny climate. Okay, it's a possessive. And also I want to raise the point down here is let's focus on this one first and I'll talk about that. The average life expectancy rose, which means increased. This is an irregular verb, to rise, like bread in an oven. When you're making bread and it rises. So the bread, if I talk about this morning in the oven, it rose. So it's irregular, it's not normal. 4.3, remember with numbers we're using point. When you're talking about the internet, you'll say dot, and when you're talking about numbers, you'll say point. Let's move on. Work life. Hybrid work allows for a healthier lifestyle, a poll finds. A poll is like a survey. It's basically like a survey, and the pronunciation is poll. People working at least part of the week from home claim to have a healthier lifestyle since they stopped going to the office full time. A poll of 2,000 UK workers has found. Hybrid workers say the time they use to spend commuting is now being used to get more exercise, sleep more, and cook better meals from scratch. Okay, we have a few things here. Hybrid, meaning a mix. So hybrid working, a bit in the office, a bit from home, allows for a healthier lifestyle. Your lifestyle is the way you conduct your life. A poll is another survey. People working at least part of the week from home claim, they say, to have a healthier lifestyle since they stopped going to the office full time. And then again, we see poll. We see it a lot on LinkedIn. It's basically a survey. Or hybrid workers say the time they used to spend commuting. Commuting is traveling to work, and generally by public transport. So when you drive to work, I wouldn't really call it commuting. I generally say, people would say, how do you get to work? And I'll say, I drive. But if I take public transport, I'll say I commute. Taking the train, taking the bus. Sleep more, cook better meals from scratch. From scratch means from the beginning, from the start. Sometimes you might be working on a project in work or doing a presentation, whatever it is, and you have to start from scratch. You have to start from the beginning. Some people start their own company from scratch. All right, what's this one? Idea of the day. Not graduating doesn't mean you failed in life. The path to success can take many forms. Even if society expects people to get a diploma or a degree, it doesn't mean dropping out of school has to be the end of the road, says George Sullivan. I was kicked out of school at 17. Now I employ 45 people in an 8-figure business. I say that to prove a point. What is considered failure in education doesn't mean failure in life. Okay, we have some pronunciation and vocabulary here. Graduating is when you finish your course, you graduate. The path to success takes many forms. Even if society expects people to get a diploma or a degree, a master's. It doesn't mean dropping out of school has to be the end of the road. So to drop out is a phrasal verb here, and that means is to stop. So if you drop out of a course, if you drop out of something, it means you stop doing it. Drop out of school, you'll often hear. It means to leave school before it ends. The end of the road. I was kicked out. This is an interesting point. When you get kicked out, when you're in school or in university, you don't get fired, you don't get laid off. This is when you're in a job. But if you're on a course somewhere and you have like behaved badly or misconduct, you'll be kicked out. That's the phrasal verb here, is to kick. They kicked her out. They kicked out the girl. So it's a phrasal verb. And what you're doing really with the phrasal verb, and we're going to look later, is you're just changing the first word of the phrasal verb. So to kick out, and in the past is kicked. Now I employ 45 people in an 8-figure business. Okay, so 6-figure means millions, and 8-figure means, I don't know, trillions, I suppose? Billions? So it goes millions, billions, trillions. One of those. So I assume 7 figures would be, so 6 million is a 6-figure, 60 million would be 7-figure, and 8-figure I suppose is, okay, 126 million. Okay, so nice, very nice. That's what it means. Figure means number. It's the expression we're using for 6-figure salary, 6-figure bonus, for example. This figure means number. And I think that's it. If I carry on. Okay, one more. Today's debates. How important is timing for business success? Timing is one of the most overlooked, I'll come back to it, factors in a startup success. Some companies that nail their marketing timing are YouTube, Uber, and Airbnb. How can founders understand if their business opportunity has good timing? It comes down to their ability to assess the broader ecosystem of factors required for the business opportunity to experience explosive growth. Okay, you just right time, right place. But we're going to look at the vocabulary here. Timing is one of the most overlooked. Overlooked is when it's not focused on, it's skipped. You don't focus on it, you don't think about it. Perhaps when booking a holiday, for example, you might, and you book late, you've overlooked, or like you forgot about the fact, you overlooked the fact that booking late means it's going to be more expensive. If you book early, it's going to be cheaper. So if you forget about booking early, you have overlooked that fact. Factors startup success, startups, new businesses from scratch. Some companies that nail their marketing. Okay, so when you nail something, to nail it means do it exactly right, get it perfectly. You nailed it. Okay, if somebody says, they ask you something and you nail the answer, you get it exactly correct. Their market are YouTube, Uber. The pronunciation here is Uber. How can founders? Founders are the entrepreneurs. These are the people who start the business. In the business opportunities, it comes down to, when something comes down to something, this is what it is, the main point. The main point is, it comes down to. The main point is their ability to assess. It comes down to their ability to assess broader ecosystem of factors required. Okay, fantastic. All right, we're going to leave it at that for now, and then we are going to jump over to what we were going to look at earlier. And we're going to move into these phrasal verbs. And as I said, these are phrasal verbs that can be useful in business. So our first one here is, I'm going to highlight it, if I may, if it lets me. Okay, I should be able to do it. So I'm going to highlight it. And this is what we call highlighting when you do it like this. It could, generally in school, you have those pens and they're called highlighters. So our first one is to follow up, which is, and what I might do as well is, if I do the text here, I can also spell it out. Okay, so we have to F-O-L-L-O-W-U-P. All right. I'm not sure. Okay, you should be able to see that. Okay, to follow up is to check on the progress of something or someone after. Let me go over because I need to check it. Yes, to check on the progress of something or someone after an initial interaction or request. Here's an example. I'll follow up with the client next week to see if they've made a decision. Right, so what we do is here with follow up is it means to come back to something that you started. So if we have an initial meeting and I give you the information and then you buy our product, then what we'll do is later we'll have our first meeting, you buy the product, and then later I will have a follow-up meeting with you, which is an extension of the first meeting. So it's a follow-up meeting, and I'll say, so how are you getting on with the new product? Is everything going okay? And that is to check and review that everything is going on. That is to follow up. So often as well, I was talking to someone before, and I was saying that it can be used in business and it can be used in many different areas. Let's take a doctor, for example, going around checking on the patients, and patient looks okay. You look at the chart and say, okay, so what I'll do is I'll give you this medicine now, and then in 10 hours we'll come back and follow up on your progress. We're going to check on your progress. So I hope that's clear. That is to follow up. T-O-F-O-L-L-O-W-U-P. Follow up. On to the next one, which is touch base. To touch base is to, I'm going to highlight it again for you here. I'll move it down, touch base, click in here, and we have it highlighted. So touch base is what we do to make contact with someone, usually to exchange information or catch up on a project. Our example here is, let's touch base after meeting to discuss the next steps. So touch base is get in contact with someone generally that you work with or you know, a client, for example, or someone that you're working with in a team. And I'll write it in here. To touch, no, I'm not supposed to say the word, I'm supposed to say the letters. T-O-T-O-U-C-H-B-A-S-E, to touch base. Doesn't matter if it's across the screen. To touch base. And as I said with these phrasal verbs, what you're doing is you're treating the first word of the verb, no, not the to, but the touch. Let's take, for example, I touched base. So yesterday I touched base with Claire, for example. So I touched base with Claire yesterday. I got in contact with Claire. Claire would more than likely be someone I know. It's a colleague. It's someone I am working with or I know as a client. I touched base. And then if we talk about the future tense, I will touch base. Okay, so all we're changing is in the phrasal verb, we're just changing the first part, okay? The touch, and the second part, we're just going to leave alone. The second word, let's say. Trying to make it as simple as possible. I hope it makes sense, and you'll see in the next ones as well. So touch base is, you can employ it today, you can use it today. Someone you need to get in contact with after a meeting or whenever, get in contact with that person. Touch. Not to be confused when you don't know a person or it's a client or someone you don't know. That would be reach out. I can focus on this later, but reach out would be reach out to new clients you don't know, prospective clients. You can reach out to them. So you could even start an email and say, hi, I'm reaching out to you because I know you're looking for, someone to take care of that part of your business. I'm reaching out to you. So touch base would be more, hi, I'm touching base. I want to know how you're doing with our new product. People you know. Next one here is circle back. Great one here. I think this is quite useful. circle back to revisit a topic or an issue that was discussed previously. We can circle back to the point later in the conversation if we have time. I think you can use this one easily. I'm going to spell it for you. TOCIRCLEBACK, to circle back. Again, the only thing that will be changing here is the circle. Phrasal verb, to circle back. I circled back to the topic. So this is basically what we would say normally in a meeting. You're saying, I will come back to this point later in the meeting. Or if somebody interrupts me, I'll say, that's a good question. We can come back to that point at the end of the meeting. But now a new expression has come along, which is circle back. So you're just exchanging come back for circle back, and it's quite useful and it's quite nice to use. So if somebody interrupts or asks a question, excuse me, what about the I don't know, what about the budget for next year? So that's a good question. Thank you for asking. We can circle back to that point at the end of the meeting. So it's great. It's a great little expression. There's no reason you can't use it. And if you don't use it, you'll at least you'll be familiar with it anyway. So let me find that part there. I'm going to, if I can circle back. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting rid of this, to get rid of. So I'm erasing, but normally when we take something away, throw something out, so common in English to say get rid of. Next one. We are on to think outside the box. Now this one that I have highlighted here, this one is a bit overused in the English sphere, the English circle, which means it's used too much. Okay, I'm going to spell it for you anyway. To. T-O. T-H-I-N-K-O-U-T-S-I-D-E. The... I gotta make this smaller now. B-O-X. To think outside the box. Very common to hear in meetings when people want to be dynamic and so on. It's been around for a few years now and overused, to think outside the box. So maybe you should think outside the box. And well, let's first of all look at the meaning. If you're not familiar, it's an approach to approach a problem or a challenge in a creative or unconventional way. For example, we need to think outside the box to come up with a solution to this issue. We need to be creative. That's basically what it means. We need to be creative. So it's a good expression, but we want to say it in a new way. You could say, we need to paint the box. We need to crush the box. We need to stand on the box. We need to put lights on the box. It's kind of cool to say this kind of thing. It's kind of new. And it's a way of taking this phrase that's means to be more creative and be creative again using this phrase. So I think it's pretty cool. But the actual original phrase means to be creative, but it's overused. So the next time I use it, I'm going to say something different. Like, we need to paint the box. We need to put lights on the box. It's kind of a bit more interesting. Let's get rid of that. You get extra points today if you use the expression to get rid of, because it is something we always say in English, but not many. I would say I've been teaching English now for about 12 years, and I could count on one hand the amount of students that have used to get rid of, because I do understand students are intimidated by phrasal verbs and so on. But while I keep talking about it, I need to write it for you. T-O-G-E-T-R-I-D of, to get rid of what? Get rid of something. I want to get rid of something. So I'm going to get rid of my writing. And now I am getting rid of my writing. Okay, if you use that today, you get extra points. A pat on the back. Finally, here we have run something by. That might be in the way. Yeah, and I am going to highlight it. Oh, here, let me teach you something here. I am going to highlight it means I'm going to do something. And now I am highlighting it. Let's move across here. And that is TORUNSOMETHING by, and then we'll just put SO for someone. What does this mean? When you run something by someone, you are looking or seeking, asking someone's opinion or approval on a decision or idea. And the example here we have is, before we finalize the proposal, I'd like to run it by the marketing team for their input. So I'd like to ask them either for their approval or their opinion. It's asking someone. So when we run something, it's the idea. When we run it by someone, it's like, or perhaps I have an agreement with you about a budget, but I need my manager to sign off on it. I need my manager to give me the okay. So, okay, fantastic. That sounds great. Let me run it by my manager and see what she thinks, and I will get back to you. So run, what is the something? The something in this case is the budget proposal. Let me run it by my manager and see what she thinks, and then I'll get back to you. I'll touch base with you next week. I'll get in contact with you next week. Right, what am I going to do now? I'm going to get rid of this. And now I'm getting rid of this. Okay, let's move on. You know what I want to look at today? Now, I want to look at some words that people find difficult to pronounce in English. Difficult words to pronounce. Difficult for English speakers and also difficult for learners of English. I was going to say foreigners there, but sometimes foreigners in English can sound a bit, I don't want to say racist, but prejudice. It can sound, it's got, nowadays, you can say foreigners, but it does sound kind of like pointing the finger at people. So people from abroad is good, or English learners, or language learners, or something. Right, let's have a look. Our first word here. I'm going to highlight it. And then I'm going to write it for you. And I want you to say in your mind, THOROUGH. How do you think you pronounce this word? Meaning, complete or exhaustive. A few more seconds. Okay. The pronunciation of this word is thorough. Thorough. Okay, it doesn't make sense because nothing in English really makes sense, does it? Let's delete. This word is another difficult word. It's got it the same as thorough, but this one is rough. Rough. It's like an F sound at the end. But as we said, THOROUGH, thorough. This is a type of word that when we were younger in school as English, English native people, we would always have spelling tests. And this is, the teacher would be walking around the classroom and then says, next word is thorough. And believe me, everybody started to sweat because we had exactly the same problem. Not only with the pronunciation, but or maybe not with the pronunciation, but with the spelling. Absolutely nothing to do with the pronunciation. Thorough. So, you want to give a thorough inspection to the project, which means have a look at something really carefully, completely, and make sure, give the house a thorough cleaning, for example. Complete, it means let's get rid of it. Right, next one. if you can see on the screen. It's a little animal. Squirrel. I want you guys in your brain spelling before I do and see if you're right. Because it's the first thing we learn in English is the alphabet, but I guarantee you it's the first thing you forget as well. And then it becomes embarrassing and nobody wants to learn it. The pronunciation of this word is squirrel. Squirrel. Small little animal that jumps into trees. Big problem in the UK and Ireland with the squirrels because we used to have lovely red squirrels and they have been invaded or taken over by the grey, more boring coloured squirrel, which is the grey squirrel. But I don't know if I'm just being prejudiced towards grey squirrels. But anyway, that's the pronunciation. Squirrel, let's get rid of it. Off you go. The next one is a type of flower. I'm not really familiar with this word. I just I'm not really a botanist, a person who's into flowers or who works for flowers. A N E M O N E. Anemone. Anemone. So this start here, the A is actually pronounced like an like UH, anemone. And you'll find that everywhere in the English language. I don't think you're going to meet this word too much, so we won't spend too much time on it. It's a type of flower. I'm going to have to do the next one. Where are we? There we go. Sorry. The next one we are on to number 4. And it's capital COLONEL. Looks like colonel. 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 And the pronunciation is colonel. Colonel. Like an R in there. Colonel. It's absolutely unrelated to the spelling. You just have to know. It's a military rank. Quite, I think it's a high military rank. I don't know how it goes in the order of hierarchy, but that's what it is. And the next one, which you can find in a lot of supermarkets nowadays. What's the spelling? W O R CESTERSHIRE. What do you think? Well, it's Worcestershire, of course, isn't it? Worcestershire. No, absolutely not. The pronunciation is Worcester. Well, we've got the Shire. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe they do it like this on the bottle. I'm not sure if it's... Well, this is pronounced Worcester. And then if we add the Shire on, it becomes Worcestershire. Sure. Like sure, yeah. Okay, no problem. Sure. Worcestershire. Worcestershire. It's basically like when you see this word, you go, oh, that's the word that's pronounced Worcestershire. And if it's just like this, where you see the sauce, quite famous sauce, Worcester. Like, phonetically, it would be like this. Worcester. WUSTER. You also have the famous one in London, which a lot of people think is Leicester. I wrote that in capital letters. Let me go over here. Where are we? I'll just change this letter to a capital. No, did it again. No, did it again. There we go. Leicester. And the pronunciation of LEICESTER is Leicester. Leicester Square. Let's get rid of it. Leicester Square. Also a football club. that won the Premier League a few years ago. Where are we? This one is a French word that we haven't really changed in English. Let me. Entrepreneur. I keep doing this. I keep leaving the letters on the capital letters. Okay, maybe I could just leave it there. Okay, we are actually on number 6 here. Entrepreneur. So it's the French pronunciation, but in an English accent. So badly, let's say. Entrepreneur. This is somebody who begins their own business. When you start your own business from scratch, it's your business. You are the founder. You are an entrepreneur. In Spanish, they would say empresario, I believe. Let's get rid of it. Okay, we're on to number 7. Let me highlight number 7. If I can find the light in my eyes. Okay, number 7. It's very difficult to see what we call the cursor. The cursor is the arrow. Another name for the arrow is the cursor. In some other countries you'll just say arrow, but in English for some reason it's cursor. So spelling first. I'll do it all in caps, capital letter. PHEN. Okay, I keep getting pop-ups here, sorry. Phenomenon. Fact or an event that can be observed. Phenomenon. Used to be a song, something like a phenomenon. So that's how we learned it, through the song in the 90s. Okay, the next one, moving on to number 8. Again, that's what I've just said. Let's move on. And here we are. We're on to number 8. Yeah, remember learning these in school. Having the spelling tests as an English in English class. This is what was really difficult for us in English, was the spelling test. Okay, RHYTHM. Rhythm. What did you notice about my TH here? Listen again. Rhythm. Rhythm. Now, normally what you'll learn is, and most people stop at this point in English with the TH pronunciation, they'll stop at learning that it sounds like th. For example, you have this sound in Spanish, which is the theta or the the. So you'll say rhythm. Your tongue, what you're doing with your tongue is correct. However, it's not rhythm. The TH is pronounced. It's vocalized. It becomes rhythm. The. For example, we have 1, 2, 3. 3. Here we don't pronounce the TH. We're not vocalizing it. We're just letting the air pass, but not our vocal cords. But in this, rhythm. I don't stop my vocal cords. Rhythm. This is something, if you have a better level, if you consider yourself to have at any level, you should be saying a B1, B2, C1. This is something that you need to practice if you want to be, take your pronunciation, your fluency to that level. You need to be looking at these things. Because you have brother, mother, Heather, weather, and this is something that when you get to a certain level, it's quite often people will become, I won't say lazy, but it is you get maybe a bit tired of learning, but after a certain point you people are listening, you've got good English, and they'll be like, it's a bit different, something a bit foreign about their accent. They won't know what it is, but that's what it is. It happens with the S, the letter S as well, which I will show you in the next word. So I'll jump across. Rhythm, pattern of sounds, or movements, and now we're on to Number 9. No, I have to highlight it again. Went missing. Number 9. I'll spell it. In your mind, you tell me what you think it is. Chhaos. Did it again. Chhaos. It's easy, isn't it? It's chaos. No, it's not chaos. It's chaos. In English, it's pronounced chaos. 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 Complete disorder or confusion. Went into the office today. Nobody knew what they were doing. It was complete chaos. Chaos. I think I can safely say, if you say chaos to an English speaker, they actually won't even know what you're saying. And maybe it's the same if I were speaking in Spanish and I said, yeah, I know, chaos. They wouldn't. They say, okay, I don't know what that is. So yeah, super, a very small change, obviously, but just because of the pronunciation, it can lead to complete misunderstanding. I'm sure you've had that, like, where you say something in English and then they go, and then they say it back to you with no difference, and you're like, well, that's what I said. But these small differences make, they are big. So let me get rid of, I hope you're learning this get rid of. You need to, anything you want to lose or to throw away or anything, get rid of. I'm going to get rid of that off my screen. Moving over here, and we're on to the last one for the moment. And I'll spell it. Here we go. Particuli. Particuli. Particularly. That's not too bad, I don't think. Particularly. I think maybe it's just that it's got lots of syllables. It can be a bit of a tongue twister or a bit difficult for people. Particularly. I was bring my son to school this morning, and we were talking about the Shakira song, because he likes the new Shakira song, but when we asked Spotify to play, it put a different song, and it had the word monotonia, and we were having real trouble in Spanish with monotonia. We were saying monoti. So I understand myself as a learner of languages, the difficulty, and it's even the same as monotony in English, but it's just the fact that it was just slightly different. The only difference was the end, but really confused the two of us. Monotony. Okay, particularly meaning especially or specifically. Okay, great stuff. I hope we're helping you. Remember, if this is useful for you, just share with a friend. Have them follow me here. That would be great. And I'm really going to go through this one quite quickly, okay? This is just something where we can make a suggestion in a meeting of how to, if you want to add something, okay? So what you can do in meetings, if you want to make a suggestion, if you have an idea, of course, and I want to just stress this fact as well. I'm going to be talking about this, so don't worry about the size on the screen of the writing. Let me go over here and just make myself a bit bigger. Okay, so when we're having a meeting in English, if you want to add something, you want to say something, sometimes you might feel a bit worried. One of the things you can do is, it's not offensive in English. You can just raise your, and of course, if you have whatever you're using, Teams or whatever you're using, you've got the little icon to put up your hand, of course. But if you don't want to do that, you can just raise your finger like this. It's not offensive in English at all. You can raise your hand. It's not offensive. I don't know about other cultures, so you got to be careful. In an international environment, it's not my fault if you do this, and then in some country it's very offensive, okay? 1 second. Um, for example, a lot of people don't know that the two fingers like this in English is offensive. So if you say, "Oh, how many people?" Yeah, no, I spoke to two customers. It's very rude in English to do this. I'm doing it just for educational purposes. This is fine. It's like, "Hey, peace," but the two fingers like this, it's essentially like just the one finger. Okay, educational purposes. I'm just showing you. But yeah, two fingers, very rude. It means the same as the middle finger. So this is fine. Excuse me, I want to say something. Or this. And you say, I have a suggestion that might help us achieve our goal. I have a suggestion. May I offer a suggestion that could potentially address this issue? Potentially means it's possible. So I have a suggestion. May I offer a suggestion? Moving on to number 3, I'd like to propose an idea that could be worth considering. I'd like to propose an idea that could be worth considering. Then we're on to number 4. What if we tried a different approach? Here's my suggestion. Generally, we're focusing on the word suggestion here. Let's come ideas. I was thinking about this problem, and I have a suggestion that could be beneficial for the team. Can I suggest a possible solution to this challenge? So I hope you're getting the feeling of suggestion. Let me find the arrow. There's no way I'm going to find this arrow on the screen. It's just too... Okay. Okay, let me highlight it. Can I suggest a possible solution to this challenge? Number 7. I have thought that this might be helpful. Would you... Oh, I have a thought that might be helpful. Would you like to hear it? Next one. I'd like to suggest... See, I've contracted here. I would, and I just said I'd. I'd like to suggest a new strategy that could improve our current situation. Current means present. You can come back and stop the screen to look at these. Next one. What if we explored this option? Here's my suggestion. What if we explored this option? Here's my suggestion. And finally, if we move down to number 10, I can't find this arrow. It's ridiculous. I believe I have a suggestion that could add value to this project. Would you be open to hearing it? It's a good one here. I like this one. This part. Would you be open to that idea? Would you be open to working on the weekend? Would you be open to... This is like, would you be... I don't say in agreement with, like, well, could you possibly agree with that? Like, when you're open to suggestions means like, yeah, I'll listen. I'll listen to it anyway. So would you be open to that idea? It's very nice. And here's a picture of Stonehenge. Just to make you feel in connection with the English. It's a very famous landmark in the UK, in England. Something that I went to and I found a bit underwhelming. Underwhelming means I was expecting more, and then I went and I was a bit disappointed. Perhaps because I didn't know the history so much. I just knew it was, okay, they're stones, but I don't know who made them. I don't know. So I go, I see the stones. Yeah, okay. I was expecting something a bit bigger maybe, or a bit more, I don't know. But we say when you're kind of disappointed, or you go to a film or something, or it doesn't meet your expectations, you say it was underwhelming. Okay, there's no point in me telling you this word if I'm not going to spell it. UNDERWHELMING. Underwhelming. Not that exciting, not that good, not what I expected. Less than I expected. But however, when you're working in the office, you get over your work is overwhelming. Too much. Over. WHELMING. We use this more often than the other word. Overwhelming is your work is overwhelming, it's too much, or I feel overwhelmed with all my work. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much work, too much in life, too much in work. It's just too much. I'm overwhelmed. Good word, that. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope this was useful for you. Again, thanks to the new guys for connecting. Really great to have you on board. And what I'm look out. I've been away. I was away, so that's the reason I wasn't around last week for a stream. But great to have you with me, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Okay, all the best.